Hello, 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 everyone. How is everyone doing this fine morning? Happy Thursday. Good morning, Patrick. Good morning, Sterling. I'm glad you made it back in. Hello, Charles. Hey, John, I missed you. You were first in, it looks like. Uh, hey, Heinrich. Thank you for putting in earnings, Sterling. What would everybody take off Thursday? Fed day no longer here. Everybody's taking off the day. Well, I had a I don't get why sometimes these are different. I had a misbeat, I think it was, on Shopify. I'll have to double check that. Good morning, Jacob. Good morning, PMG. How are you this fine morning? All right. All right. Well, people are still dribbling in. We're supposedly going to get the biggest trade announcement ever. Market's rallying a bit, pulling back. I'll show you exactly what I'm watching going into the open. Other than that, we'll just take a look at everything as normal. We had unemployment figures come out, dropping from prior. Consensus was 230, coming in 228, down from 241 earlier. Good morning, Jake. Continued jobless claims also down a bit from prior and slightly below consensus. So that's where we sit there. Unit labor costs, preliminary numbers for Q1 were up. So that is, again, is another possibly inflationary print. What else? What else do we have coming out today? We have wholesale inventories. We have, again, the 408-week bill auctions, consumer inflation expectations, but that is really about it. Then tomorrow we got a lot of Fed speak. Good morning, David. Peloton, yeah, I had the same thing, misbeat. Good morning, Tony. Why is everybody coming in late? Why is everybody coming in late today? What is going on? Is it sleep-in Thursday? Oh boy, week's almost over. So we had the Fed meeting yesterday. Nothing eventful other than a bunch of if this is this, if this is this, and otherwise we're on pause mode. Today, healthcare down across the board, but everything else is trying to rally. Google hit the first and second target. Had to be traded off the 1 hour basis. It was triggered officially and it was valid on a 1 hour basis. It dropped to the first and second target, which were the ones. We could take a look at that. And then it bounced. Yeah, only healthcare is down. Everything else is up, being led by comm services, consumer cyclical technology. Fed Watch now still has a pause in place for June. Fear and greed still in greed. PE 3450, Schiller PE. So Sterling's putting in the earnings. Thank you very much. But again, none of this is really market moving. After the close, we got Coinbase, Cloudflare, but nothing, DraftKings, nothing that's going to be market moving, and nothing is going to be market moving tomorrow. So not much to talk about there either. There's ConocoPhillips was a beat. Thank you for that, Sterling. Stress lost on Tesla should have stayed away. I let PL profit loss dictate my trades. You cannot. Thank you for admitting that, but profit loss does not dictate your trades. The setups dictate your trades. And as I said before, and this I'm not picking on you, PMG. This is a hard lesson for people to learn. Setups and then reward to risk. If you cannot get reward to risk, I don't care if you have the setup. If the trade, every trade is not a trade. Every setup is not a trade. There's multiple things that go into here. That's why, and one of the things is patience. Waiting for the key setups with the proper reward to risk, and then are all those going to work out? No. But at least you're putting the majority of things in your favor. So, that being said, thank you for your honesty, PMG. Really appreciate it. Warner Brothers Discovery was a miss. Again, I was watching for the pullback to rotation zone. We really got it nicely yesterday on the S&P into that key area window I was watching, rotated up with the Fed meeting and now following through. Now we are in potential double top territory. So I will keep an eye on that. If we do not trigger this, I am in short-term bullish mode. The only thing that short term what would do that, it would just is if we triggered this double, which would need at least a 4 hour follow through close below 55.96. It is against our daily rotation zone. So it's a lower probability variety. Would that tank the market? No. It would just be a potential spike down to the April 30th lows. But I'm still focused on upside. In the short term, this is exactly what I'm looking at right now. I'm watching this 1 hour rotation zone and watching for this. We have a very key level. I'll just put it on the chart right now. On the 1 hour, we have a very key resistance level about this 56.98. We get above there, then I'll be watching for a retest of the high area back from Friday and then a potential breakout. If we break down from there, I'm watching the 4 hour rotation zone and specifically the right around this 56.65 on any bigger pullback. Now, I also have these harmonic levels. These you see here, those are the forward harmonics from the low on April 7th to the high on the 2nd. Now we have a cluster right at the 75% harmonic. Let me see if I can move this. See this? So that's anchored right here. That gives me a cluster. So my intermediate target is still this 57.82. The major targets then is this 58.25 area. And we had a very key high there. So those are the two things I'm watching for any breakout. Again, doesn't have to happen today, but that's what's in play unless we triggered a double, a little mini double. Crocs was a beat. Well, there we go. Trump attacks anybody that he doesn't agree with. Good morning, Martinez. Okay, that you know that, Coco. Come on. Not that I agree with it. I don't agree with a lot Trump says, so at all. But that's who Trump is. We got three and a half more years of it. So that's exactly what I'm looking at. So we have and we're also getting the cycle bottoms. We're out of overbought mode and looping back up. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on unless we trigger the mini double top. Same thing, little mini double top here in the NASDAQ against the 200. The only thing that would make me on a pullback, short-term pullback, is if we close below this 19,678 area. Other than that, if it can break above this 200, which was my next key target, the next one is still 20,504. Then we have 20,753 minor target, and that's still the major target is 20,934. Come on. Again, I'm just keeping an eye right here. It has to get back above. I'm really watching this 20,190 area going into the open. But if we start pulling back, my very key support is 20,055. Oh, I'm not defending Powell. I've criticized him for years. I don't think we should have a Federal Reserve the way it's structured now. I don't think we should have a Federal Reserve. Okay, period. I don't care who's in charge of it. I've said this since the Greenspan era that really. But the Trump, whenever he doesn't agree with something, this name calling. I'm sorry, I don't find it very presidential. And it's not. It's not about Powell. I just don't find it. Again, we'll see how it all plays out. But that's Trump. That is Trump. We'll see how all this plays out. But again, I'm not defending Powell. I don't think we should. I've criticized Powell. If you've been on this channel, and I know you have for years, Sterling, how often do I say, yay, the Fed? I think the Fed's a day late, a dollar short on most things. And I think we should even, you have this consensus. What do we need? 12 clowns all, how often do you get dissenting? You're telling me it's a bunch of groupthink. I'm not even going to start it. And then Powell had the audacity to say he thinks he was a bit late last year on the cuts. Don't get me started. So, a rule would be better than the Fed. And I don't want, I don't particularly want the president trying to dictate the monetary policy either. If you're going to have monetary policies, it should be dictated. If you're going to go back to the Constitution, it should be dictated by Congress. But if you're going to have an independent agency, I'd be happier with just a rule-based system. There you go. That's my mini rant. Again, double top in Dow. The next key level is on a breakout on the Dow. It's trading against very key resistance, but if it does break through, we still have the 62.5 area, 40,032. So I just target 40,000. We do have a little mini double top. There you go. Russell. Again, it's up broken. Now, none of these mini doubles, remember, they are against the rotation zone. They might never trigger, but that's the only thing that shifts me from short-term bullish to a bigger pullback. All right? Again, if we start getting above this 2025 area, the next key target on the Russell is 2075. And then now it's 2075, and then it's 2093. Will an agreement of the Genius Act between USA and Saudi Arabia move the market? It's not. It's not the stocks. No, it's more that it's going to be an energy thing. I mentioned my father many times. I don't think Trump is presidential. Something's got to break, and Trump is running around with a hammer. And if his hammer doesn't work, he gets a bigger hammer. Again, it's what we have. And I've told you, I thought Biden was atrocious as a president. I don't even think he was running stuff. I think it was being run behind the scenes. But you know what? I've not been a big fan of presidents for a while. That's why I'm a libertarian. But VIX, we do have a mini potential double bottom. Again, I'm not making this political. You can vote for whoever you want to vote for. You can be a fan of Trump, fan of Trump. I just say, you know what? I don't find his name calling very presidential. I agree. But that's who we have as a president, and we'll see if his trade policies work. We'll see if all his policies work. I think it's like a bull in a china shop, though. Other than that, we would have been another disaster with Harris, or if Biden had not dropped out, that would have been a huge disaster too. So, double bottom against the 87.5. Still watching for. This is really nice because if something shocking happened and we got a spike in volatility, I now have a pattern to trade off of potentially. Other than that, it might still be headed down. The DAX still basing off at the recent high areas, watching for 8 to come up and potentially push the price for a breakout in the DAX. The micro yields, nothing to talk about, stuck in the middle with you. So there we go. Dollar index. Still, this is very, very interesting. We got an extended double shoulder. I'm still watching this. I'm not necessarily going to use these targets, but up against the rotation zone here. My first target technically is right around this 25% harmonic because we have the gap down. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on. On this break, I still need a break above 99.80 with a follow-through close above 99.80. If you want to be a little more conservative, trade off the hundreds. 100 even. I'm still keeping an eye on this because it's trying to put in a bottoming pattern. You can see here. And also why that's the first key target area is because we've got the weekly declining rotation zone. All right. Just trying to go through as much as possible. Crude. Hitting that 50% harmonic, coming back down. Stop was technically break even, which was 57.71. we got down to 57.74 and rotating back up. So there we go. Just as what I said, raise the stops. I'm just telling you, that was a stop raise, but we'll see what's going to happen now. We still have daily cycles climbing up. Again, I am more aggressive with the stops against the rotation zone. Gold in potential big double top territory, but still in the short term. Potentially bullish. Dip below this key support level of 33.60, but back above it right now. There's nothing else for me to talk about right there. Euro. Again, watching for the breakdown below this 112.80 area with a follow-through close. Rotation zone's just been holding it but flattening out. So if this doesn't get a move on up, I'm watching for the rollover play. Spiders. Spiders will open up probably in double top territory, so make sure you put that on. Otherwise, we'll do it tomorrow. If we break above the highs, remember, I think we still have a slight gap, or did that fill? I think we have a slight gap fill back to 566.76. Yeah, we still have a slight gap fill to 566.76 on a breakout above these highs. Minor target is still 573 area. Then we have the cluster from the forward harmonics right around that 75% harmonic. So around 579.20 to 580. The same thing, we can't put the double up there yet, but that would be the same thing. Based off where it's going to gap open. The Q's the same difference. The Q's on the break above this 200 area. Your minor area, you still have a gap fill technically to 493.46, and then the next major area is 501.98. Reminds me of the pandemic bottom, up, up, up. Nothing matters. And the passive flows are huge right now. And retail is really buying this. They're buying this thing massively. So that's why it's not what I think's going to happen. I got it again. The probabilities, even though Jim makes fun of me, if you watch the Trader's Edge, I'm all about the probabilities. And right now we've tipped the probabilities above the 62.5. We're holding the rotation zone. We traded those doubles. It looks like the S&P one's going to complete also, and then break higher. I just got to go with that. It is. It's up, up, and up. Buy it up. Buy it all. Let me go through a couple other things. Google, which was still, I highlighted it on the daily, but you can see it was completely valid on the 1 hour. Now, what is the little thing? This is a really good thing because people forget this rule. So here's the candle bodies, right? Here's the candle bodies. First target, second target within the candle bodies. It started the move. So what are the two primary targets you use? This is a nice if it just collapses final target. But what are the ones I focus on? First and second targets. Where did it come down to yesterday? There was a trigger point with momentum. Okay? And it was more just a momentum breakdown trade. And then look at this. First, second target. Boom, boom. Virtually done with right there. And we're going to gap up now. So anything left on that was, I'll just leave that on the chart, but virtually done with. What else do we have? What else do we have in play? Meta. I mean, you might not be for you, but given multiple opportunities to get in this thing. Again, just we don't even have it hit the first target. It might not. It might turn around and stop out. However, probability say Meta should be higher. It's yesterday's closed 596, gapping up to 608. Remember, comm services is running. The first key target area. This is an area I will use as a slightly lower first target because we have this very key level. You see how it was a high here? Just trying to teach as much as possible to everybody. You see how it was a key high here, a key high here, and that's right in front of this first target? This is going to be my first target area, personally. That's what I would use. Right in front of the official first target, because that would be a very good area to at least raise a stop from my perspective. Okay? Now, also remember, we are gapping up today. We have cycles still trying to roll over, and we're putting in some divergences, so that's also why I'd be a little more aggressive. But again, the official stop is a long way off. Check out TTWO. Yeah, I saw that. Not that I play Grand Theft Auto, but I did see they delayed that past 2026 and set up a daily potential double top. Going in earnings next Thursday, lower probability, but it's there. Again, let's check that out. Potential double top. You'd have to, again, use the first and second targets. See, if we went from the aggressive side, it's right there. So I'd, again, keep it on the conservative side right there. So that is interesting. You do have a potential double top. They would need a pretty big collapse, but we'll see. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, there we go. Clowns to the left and jokers to the right. Stuck in the middle with you guys. So what else do we have? Tesla has not triggered the double yet. The rotation zone's still holding. Nothing has changed yet with Tesla. Now, Tesla, if it rotates back up, the potential double top is off the table, but it's never even confirmed yet. So that's still sitting there. Amazon gapping up 192. Remember, that still has a potential double bottom, which is not invalidated yet. By the way, the same thing as I was talking about on Meta, I'd actually make Amazon. Again, I don't care if you trade this or not. I'm just giving you my. I mean, I don't want you to trade it because it's not your setup. Unless you're learning doubles. Again, I'm not calling out trades here. I'm trying to teach things, but this is another instance that this is a very key pivot. I'd use that as a stop raise instead of the first. It's right in front of that first target. But this hasn't officially triggered yet. It's confirmed but not triggered. Is there a potential double bottom setup on soybeans? Let me just tell you. Oh, come on. There we go. Is there a potential double bottom setting up on soybeans daily? No. Nope. No, you can't trade that as a double. You can't trade this as a double because this would be the move that's starting it. That's actually a triple on the 4 hour. So no double there. No double. Good question, though. All right. We're heading into the open. Let's just peek at the open. Let's just peek at the open real quick. Again, nothing's really changed. If we do start pulling back below this rotation zone, I'm watching for the bigger pullback, 56.65 area. On a breakout, I personally needed about 56.98 again to reestablish this key prior resistance. I want it reestablished into the open to be support. Okay. I think we've covered this all. Who knew Bob Dylan wrote that song by Steelers? I did not know that. I did not. Bob Dylan's, oh man, what an amazing songwriter. Bob Dylan, amazing songwriter. See anything in OKTA? OKTA. It's, what am I missing? It's regaining it. Oh, the weekly 200. That's what you're looking at. Do I see anything other than, I'd be watching pullbacks as long as the daily rotation zone holds. As long as the daily rotation zone holds, I'd be watching for pullbacks, holding key support and breaking out. That's about it. That's about it. And again, if you're looking for short-term targets higher, if it does sustain it, I would use your reverse harmonics in the short term. And, 120, 180 would be a key at least stop raise area for any breakout play, and then 125.60. And let's see how those targets look on the bigger weekly time frame. Because you are above here. Let's raise this, but above here, you are still going into a clear path move, and the next then major target, if this continues higher, would be around 138. I agree, Patrick. What else can you do during Minnesota winters but write music? Natty Gas has held 200 and struggling with breakout at the 25% retracement. You guys have learned way too much. And Natty Gas also has a minor potential double top also. Has a minor potential double top. So I'd be keeping an eye on that. That could be a little quick thing to the downside. If it does pop above here, major resistance is at 388, but there is a minor double top in there. All right, we're open. I'm just curious to see where the tick opened, because I was going to check that anyways. It's the first thing I check on the opening. Oh, pretty strong tick opening. Very strong tick opening. So, as I said, we're not getting much of a pullback. I'm still now watching as if this holds, especially these key areas of 56.82, then I'll be watching for the bounce, and any bounce has to take us above 56.98 and sustain above there. All right. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. I shall talk to everyone tomorrow. TGIF and a lot of Fed speak. So everybody have a wonderful trading day. We have huge announcements coming this morning. Huge trade deal with the UK announcement. We'll see how huge it is, and let's see what the announcement actually is and how the market reacts to it. That's going to be interesting. Until then, I'll talk to everyone later. Bye for now.